Welcome to my fledgling YouTube channel. I am Devin Yanko and I am here today to kick off a series which I'm going to call Don't Call It a Comeback. I have been injured now for about 9 weeks, so I thought it would be helpful and interesting to people potentially to talk about how I'm dealing with injury, what the processes look like to get a diagnosis and treatment, and also what it looks like to get back to running at a high level. I ran 5,000 miles last year. This injury was super unfortunate. I haven't even run at all, basically, in the year 2021. So this is basically just wanted to kind of record this process so people could understand what it is like to overcome an injury, and have a resource for all of the things that come with being injured. So let's dive into it. First of all, it took me about 8 weeks to actually get a diagnosis. So I ran a fast 50K in December. I actually ran a 3:15, which was a PR by 8 minutes and would have been the third fastest time for an American woman ever had it not been a solo time trial. I had been feeling great going into this, feeling really strong. Race went well. I came off of the race feeling pretty tight in my hamstrings and my popliteal muscle. And I basically, first error, only took 1 day off. My coach decided that since we were training for the Hoka 100K that we wanted to dive right back into training. And so I figured, I'm just sore, like I should be fine. But over the course of that week, the week of Christmas, the pain, especially in my popliteal muscle, which is the muscle right behind your knee, it's a little fan-shaped thing. It was really bothering me, pretty sore, and I was thinking that I should take some days off. But I pushed through, and on Sunday, just 8 days after my 50K, I was running with my friend David down Eldridge on some local trails, and my whole leg started going weak. And I started having crazy pains in my leg and near my knee. So initially I just thought it was possibly a previous problem that I had had where my pelvis had tilted and cut off my femoral nerve, because the weakness made me think it might be related to that. So I started getting some body work done, seeing PTs, things like that. Unfortunately, nothing was really working. The problem just seemed to move around a lot. We tried everything, like looking at the whole system, looking at how my pelvis was working. I went to my sports medicine doctor in mid-January, got knee x-ray, pelvic x-ray, and there was nothing really on that. We decided to get a pelvis MRI first, which in hindsight, knee pain, maybe should have gone for the knee MRI first. But at the time, I definitely was feeling like it was multifactorial, that potentially just my tight hamstrings had caused some tendinitis in my knee, because the knee pain itself was where my biceps femoris, which is one of your hamstring muscles, attaches. So, I was getting a lot of body work. I did see some progress. I wasn't really able to run without pain, but it did seem like we were moving the needle. But, after 6 or 7 weeks without things really getting better, and I noticed that when I actually loaded my hamstrings, because at the time I was being allowed to weight train, like when I did things like deadlifts, that my knee pain came back. So I proceeded with the knee MRI. At the same time, I went and saw a DO, and the DO used ultrasound to look at the health of all the structures in my leg, and he discovered that I had a partially torn ACL. So the partially torn ACL didn't actually happen like at the same time as when my injury occurred. I actually took a fall. If you watch my video about my 1050Ks, I talk about on the last day how I had a really bad fall. I didn't actually think about this when my knee started to hurt, that on that day I had texted my sister, who was my ride at the finish, that she might need to come back pick me up because I had blown my knee out. Oops. So it turns out I had damaged my ACL. So that wasn't enough to really stop me at the time. I didn't have pain subsequently. The DO basically says it undermined like the functioning of my knee, so I started compensating, because your knee can be compensated for, especially since it was just like a little bit loose. So my hamstring and my popliteal muscle were doing a lot of that work. So when those things were then taken out of the equation after my 50K, that put a lot of pressure on my knee. And so it turned out that I found out from my knee MRI that I actually had a stress fracture in my distal femur. So about that far up from my knee. It actually barely made it on the knee MRI. The person who was doing the MRI, I think, caught it on the edge and actually took some further cuts up the leg. So those factors combined kind of complete the whole picture, right? So there is this ACL tear. There are some loose ligaments in my hip and pelvis that are causing some like strain on my lower leg. And then there's stress fracture. Since I am 9 weeks in, getting all of those diagnoses all at once was, good, but I had also proceeded already with fixing the ACL. So actually, before I received the MRI results last Thursday, I got PRP in my knee, hamstrings, basically 20 different spots. In my lower back, all these ligaments, my hip, basically my lower quadrant. It's extraordinarily painful, but that should help with the issues of actually like ligament and muscle damage. So I got that done on Thursday. PRP, if you don't know what that is platelet-rich plasma. So essentially, they take your blood out, significant amount for me, and then they spin it, and then they take the good stuff, the platelet-rich plasma, and they inject that back into the damaged structure. So it both causes a little bit of damage, but then also provides the resource for the structure to heal. So that happened last Thursday. It's Tuesday today. So first couple days were really rough. Not only did I come home on this high, I'm on my way to healing. This is going to be great. It's going to be, I have to take 2 more weeks totally off from exercise. Actually, the only 2 weeks that I've totally taken off from exercise this whole time. But I got home and got the MRI report, so that was a bit of a bummer. The good news is the amount of time left to kind of return to running with the stress fracture and the PRP healing is about the same, which is all good news. So I'm probably about 6 weeks out from running. I mean, like real running. At 2 weeks, I will check in with my DO and I will get to start PT. So all in all, I'm looking at about 14 total weeks out. So that's where I am right now. I am still in the phase of do nothing except for like walk around the house. But I'm really focusing on recovery. Having an answer and having a clear answer has been super helpful, because the preceding 8 weeks without a diagnosis, there was a lot of, oh, you can try to run, you can ride your bike, you can try to do this, you can try to do that. But now I have like concrete parameters that I can move forward with. So this is episode 1. Let's see how it goes. Drop a like, comment. I would love to know what you would like to know about being injured, what you want to see in the recovery process. Anything that's super important, I would love to hear it. You can also subscribe if you want. I'm going to pretend like I'm a real YouTuber and say all of these things. I have no idea what I'm doing. So follow along. Thanks for joining me for episode 1 of Don't Call It a Comeback.